NXT starts off with Oba Fi. He ends up cutting a really, really good promo. This promo went exactly how you would expect it to go after him becoming the new NXT champion. He basically talks about how he is now officially the ruler of NXT. He's going to be a very dominant champion. Then you get Tony D'Angelo. He comes out and ends up mentioning, he was the one that defeated Oba Fi for the North American title, and that if they were to cross paths again, that he would end up being a double champion in defeating Oba Fi. Then Oba Fi ends up responding back, ends up mentioning Tony D'Angelo getting attacked by Reg Holland. Then Reg Holland comes out. He ends up saying a few, I forgot exactly what he said, but he says a few words. He ends up coming out with like a picture framed of him attacking Tony D'Angelo, and then Tony D'Angelo and them two end up brawling. This was a really solid segment. I really enjoyed what they did here. I like. Oh well, after they end up brawling, Tony D'Angelo and Rich Holland, Eddie Thorpe ended up attacking Oba Fi. So it looks like them two are going to be feuding for the NXT title. This is very interesting because it seems like Oba is going to be more of a tweener instead of just a pure heel, which I actually kind of like, because Oba Fi is so over with the crowd that it will be kind of hard for him just to be a heel all the time, because he gets cheered even though he should be a heel. And also, too, I think it would make his title reign more interesting, because a lot of people complain about Trick Williams not having good challengers, and people call Trick not a good champion, even though Trick Williams just didn't have good challengers. But Oba Fi is going to have that same issue as well, because he doesn't have challengers. But if you have him face baby faces and other heels, that opens more competitors to make his title reign more interesting, in my opinion. And then later on in the show, we need to figure out that Reg and Tony D'Angelo will have a I think it is an actual North American title match next week, if I'm not mistaken. So interested to see how that plays out. Afterwards, though, we end up getting Shotzi for the Stephanie Vaquer number one contenders match to see who will face Fallon Henley. This match was fine. Towards the end of the match, Fatal Influence ended up interfering in the match, and Shotzi picks up the victory. This was very strange because Fallon Henley was the one that distracted. Well, Jason Jane came out first, but then Fallon Henley ended up attacking Stephanie Vaquer to allow Shotzi to win. This doesn't make no sense at all, because for the past few weeks, Fatal Influence has been feuding with Shotzi, Tatum Paxley, and Gigi, but now Fallon Henley helps Shotzi. Now, I understand that. Look, I get that maybe they could do the thing of, well, she wanted a weaker opponent because Stephanie will be the stronger opponent. Sure, but still, this is someone that you've been feuding with for weeks. It doesn't make sense for you to help them win. It would have made more sense if Kalani, Lola, or Cor Jade interfered in this match than Fatal Influence, in my opinion. I just don't see it. They're going to have a title match in 2 weeks. We'll see how that plays out. I'm assuming Fallon Henley is winning. There's no reason why Shotzi should win at all. So I'm assuming Fallon Henley will win that match. I'm interested to see where the story goes, but yeah, I just don't understand why Fatal Influence interfered in this match. That just didn't make no sense. Afterwards, we ended up getting Ethan Page versus Dante Chen. This match ended up getting set it up by Ethan Page. Ended up, parading, celebrating, being the egotistical guy he is. He ends up mentioning what happened at New Year's Eve with him and The Rock. Dante Chen ends up going back and forth with Ethan Page. Ethan Page start, talking about the attack he did on Javon and Cedric. Dante gets mad, ends up requesting a match. This match was very quick, as it should. This match should not have been that long, so I'm glad they made it quick. Ethan Page picks up the victory. But after the match, though, Ethan Page ends up attacking Dante Chen and ends up smashing his leg, if I'm not mistaken, with the steel steps. I am loving this gimmick of Ethan Page constantly attacking his opponents after match and brutally doing it very brutally as well. I am loving that. That is very good. This is the most entertaining he's been since his debut. He's always been entertaining, but this is something that he really needed since losing the NXT Championship and since not being in the main event scene. This is great. But after this, though, we end up getting, because after he attacked Dante Chen, Javon Evans makes his return. He ends up attacking Ethan Page, but Ethan Page ends up getting the upper hand and ends up punching Javon in the mouth, causing him to bleed. This was great. I love what they're doing with Ethan Page. I think his character is really impressing me, man. I am loving what they're doing, because I was a bit worried after him not being in the main event, seeing what they was going to do with him. I love what they're doing here, and this feud can really cook too. I really love what they're doing here, because they can do multiple matches. This should not be a one match thing. There should be multiple matches, in my opinion, to really drag out this feud. This is really good. Afterwards, we end up getting a quick segment. I'm not going to speak too much about this. Ashanti Adonis and Carmen Petrovich. They finally made up. They finally made up. They finally are not playing any more games. They finally made it official. They end up kissing in this segment. Now, to be fair, it was a fake kiss. She ended up kissing like the side of his lip. But yeah, they're officially a couple, quote unquote, in NXT. Yeah, so I'm assuming this is the end goal. I'm assuming this is the end of the story. I don't know how you could progress this story unless you're finna just have them break up. But do we really need to go down that path again? I enjoyed the story for what it was, but I am glad that it is over because I don't know how much longer you could have dragged that story out. So yeah, interested to see what's next for these two. I don't have high hopes for what's next with these two because if this was the story, then this kind of tells me where they're at on the pecking order of NXT. But nonetheless, I'm glad that the story is over, and the story for what it was fine for me personally. After this, we end up getting Metaphor versus Unholy Union for the number one this is a number one contendership match for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. This match was also fine. It had moments where it was good, but it also had a lot of moments where it was just very slow, sluggish, and just very off. Metaphor picks up the victory. I'm just gonna say this now. WWE need to do two things: get rid of the tag titles or put them on NXT. Look, they need to just put the tag titles on NXT or get rid of them because I think I mentioned this in another video. I think I mentioned this in my last NXT video. It is just ridiculous that this match is even on NXT because why is a number one contendership match for the main roster tag titles for the women on NXT? This makes no sense. It's just very disrespectful. And we all know that they would never do this to any other main roster member if this was Bianca or Jade, Naomi. But when it comes to Metaphor and other women in the tag division, they're always sit down at NXT. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, I don't understand how you can try to build a women's tag division, but you don't build your actual tag teams like Metaphor, like Unholy, like Katana Chance. They're always getting sent to NXT, but the ones that you end up pushing who are not real tag teams, of course, it's like, I get it, but it's just, I just find it a bit disrespectful in my opinion. Just put them back on NXT. If you're going to treat the women's division like this, just put them back on NXT in my opinion. But I'm glad Metaphor won. Hopefully they end up beating Naomi and Bianca because I have heard reports that the reason why they even put the title on Naomi and Bianca and kept it while Jay being injured is that they could lose the titles. That way Jay doesn't get pinned. Well, Jade and Bianca don't get pinned, and Naomi can take the pin. So hopefully that's where it's going. After this, we end up getting Cor Jade versus Cly Jord. This match got set up on the show with Cor Jade is up interrupting Cly Jord. Damn, my nose is a bit running, so that's why you could probably hear me breathing a bit. I'm having a bit hard time breathing, but basically, Cor Jade is up interrupting Cly Jord. Cly Jord doesn't like it. Cly Jord still showcasing the new attitude that she has, not being a pushover, showing case this new aggressiveness that she has. So leads to a match. Cor Jade actually picks up the victory by cheating. So I don't know where this is going. I don't know if this is leading to a Cly Jord heel turn or this is just leading to her just continuing down the path of just being more aggressive. But nonetheless, I do like what they're going. I will say this. I don't know where they're going with Cor Jade because I'm very confused because at the beginning we saw, Cor Jade being friends with Roxanne Perez, being kind of like her sidekick with the NXT Championship. But now it's like, for the past few weeks, they haven't really showcased Roxanne and Cor Jade being together. So I don't really understand what they're doing with Cor Jade. And if I'm being honest, you kind of didn't need Cor Jade in Roxanne Perez title picture because I feel like everything that has happened could have happened without Cor Jade. So I'm very confused on... I'm sorry, guys. My nose is really messing with me, but I'm very confused though why they went with that angle if they weren't going to pay it off. Because I feel like the way to pay it off is for them to eventually feud, but it seems like they're not going down a path. So I'm very confused, but I'm going to trust Shawn Michaels and see where this goes. After this, we get Fraxium versus OTM for the NXT Tag Title. Fraxium wins. I'm not going to speak about this match. I'm really not. It was a fine match. It was one of their weaker matches in my opinion, but OTM was in the ring. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on OTM, but they're on the lesser scale of in-ring talent, so it makes sense. Fraxium retained their NXT tag titles. Not going to speak too much about it. Now we get the main event, which is the main thing. that I am very confused by, that I'm excited for, but I have a lot of questions. Roxanne Perez ends up coming out and she cuts like a babyface type promo. She was mentioning how, you know, she lost her NXT tag title, giving praise to the women's division, how she elevate the women's division, and how, that, mentioning her loss to Julia and all that. Now, the way it came off like she was like being a babyface, because she tricked me. I ain't gonna lie. She did a really good swerve. She tricked me because it sounded like she was a babyface. I'm thinking this is like a farewell, goodbye, goodbye speech. Then she ends up flipping it, ends up saying that the women's division is nothing without her, and that Julia would never be able to fill her shoes, etc., etc. Then you end up getting Bayley. She comes out of nowhere. I was shocked that Bayley was on the show. She comes out basically trying to give advice to Julia, try to give advice to Julia being, the veteran and all that. Not Julia, Roxanne Perez. I don't know when. Roxanne Perez. She was trying to give advice to Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez, being the heel that she is, of course, is not taking advice. Constantly, being the cocky, arrogant, stubborn heel that she is. Then it leads into a brawl. And then it just cuts off. I am so confused, but I am so interested. Number one, does this mean she's going to the main roster? And number two, is this a one-time thing, or is this feud going to continue, but is it going to continue on NXT? Because typically when WWE do like NXT call-ups, they don't just randomly call them up on the main roster. They typically do a draft. Now, Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes and Tiffany Stratton was on like episodes of SmackDown Raw, but they didn't start like really pushing them on the main roster until they got drafted, because they was on the shows before WrestleMania, but they weren't on a card or anything like that because they still had to do Stand and Deliver. So are they going to keep Roxanne on NXT until Stand and Deliver, and then maybe just have her do appearances on Raw and SmackDown, but just don't mainly push her that heavily? Like, are they going to do that route, or are they actually going to call her up? I'm going to assume not. I'm going to assume they're going to do a draft and do it that way like they've been doing. But I'm interested, but I'm just curious and a bit confused on where this is going. Is it going to lead to a main roster, or this is going to continue on NXT? Nonetheless, this show overall was okay. The beginning and ending was really good, but the middle, it kind of got worse and worse throughout the show. But it was an okay show. But the beginning and end was great. But you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.